G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of Wine About Wednesday. And I was digging around the cellar the other day, doing a bit of a clean out and finding what was down there, and I dug up a bottle of our 2008 Houdini Shiraz Zinfandel from the Barossa Valley, and it is quite a unique blend. And our first one we did was in 2004, if I remember, because we were making Zinfandel, which is a variety that has probably been like Shiraz is to Australia, it's Zinfandel is to California, and I've been making it for a number of years. We had a bit up in the Adelaide Hills when I was up there, then when I was in 2001 when I was over working in California in Sonoma Valley, we worked with some wonderful old material there and met some great people such as Larry Turley, who was famous for making some great Zinfandels, and learned a lot. And when I came back in 2002, we started taking Langhorne Creek Zinfandel, so it was 2002, 2003, all the way up to 2013, and in 2004 we took some Barossa Zinfandel. So if you don't know what Zinfandel, you might have heard it being called Primitivo, which is the Italian nomenclature. And I reckon it was probably the first of this kind of blend in Australia, and quite unique. And in 2004, there's a couple of barrels didn't make the white label series, which was where the Shiraz and Zinfandel were going. Obviously, the Donald was the Barossa Shiraz Zinfandel, and the Tardy was the Langhorne Creek Zinfandel, and then we had the Adamo, which is the Barossa Valley Shiraz in the white label autobiographical series. So yes, top of my head, probably about 80% Shiraz, 20% Zinfandel. 2008 was quite a hot year, a very hot year. So we had lovely weather all the way up to about, I think it was about the 5th of March. Then we had, which I'd actually picked our Shiraz out of, from that year. All the Shiraz for Smidge was in before the heat. The Zinfandel ripened a bit later. And obviously got a bit of heat impact, but thankfully it was ripened a bit later, and it was okay in the end. But we had that year, there was, I think it was 13 days over 35 degrees. It was, and the nighttime temperature didn't go below 30. It was probably one of those weather patterns that came through that you never thought that you would see in your lifetime. Obviously we had 46 degrees in Adelaide a week or so ago, so we get the days here and there, but to have that string of hot weather in a row was quite a shock to the system for everyone. It became a logistical nightmare for vintage, but enough about that. So yes, so 2008 was a warm year, but the Smidge Shiraz, we picked pretty all of it. We picked all of it before that heat started. I think the last block came in sort of day 2, so it was all good. And the Zinfandel was reasonably unaffected because it came in later. And Zinfandel is a funny variety. No matter how much you thin it and get the crop sort of more balanced, it seems it has this tendency for inconsistent ripening within the bunch. So you have some berries with lower sugar and higher acidity, and some other ones will be a lot sweeter and lower acidity. So you end up with typically with a Zinfandel, they are usually quite powerful wines and can often be up around that sort of 15.5, 16% alcohol. Top of my head, top of my head, I don't know. Let's have a quick look. It is 14.5% alcohol, and that would be right. We typically put the alcohol pretty well on the money. We have 1.5% tolerance here in Australia, which is quite a big range. When you think about it, you can go plus, so it's a 3% range. So if you are 14.5%, it might actually be 13%. So you added the 1.5% on, or it could actually be 16%. And you brought it down 1.5%. So it's a big range. But we label them pretty well on the money. Maybe it might be 14.6, and I'll just round it to 14.5. Yeah, so without further ado, let's give it a go. But the Shiraz component for this would have predominantly been from probably over in the Western Ranges in the Barossa, and the Shiraz was a little vineyard up Belvedere Road up towards Ebenezer. So give it a go. It would have been an older French oak, and it's been in our cellar pretty well since it's been bottled. So really lovely red core, bit of a brick red edge. There's one thing, everything out of the cellar has been stored at optimal conditions pretty well since either we bought the wine or we've bottled it. If it's one of our own, it's obviously when it's bottled, some of it goes home and goes straight to the cellar. So it's a great colour, and definitely more, it's probably a bit of a reflection of the vintage, but Zinfandel often has this really rich, meaty, spicy note, and fruitcake and lift. And straight off the bat, it is very Christmas cake, fruitcake notes, and there is some nice sort of cloves and spice and lift to it. It's more, even though the Zinfandel is probably only about 20% of the blend, it seems to be dominating on the palate. And often with Zinfandel, you do get that wonderful acidity. So I'm not surprised that it is hanging on well, because even though it's only 20% component, it would have contributed well with all this lovely natural acidity. I suspect there's a little bit of jamminess in the background, which is probably that Shiraz component from that warm year. And on the palate, lovely freshness. The acidity is still very present, quite lively, but that rich Christmas cakey fruit cake. You can think of the Lion's fruit cake if you've ever had them here in Australia. I'm not sure, and I'm sure there's equivalents from around the world in various locations, but it's really dense dried fruit and lovely sweetness and richness, and there's sort of, there's something about it. I mean, I love it. I love fruit cake like that. We don't, well, thankfully we only have them at Christmas time, but I don't think I could eat them all year round, but I always enjoy good old Christmas cake. There is a little bit of a warmth on the back palate, but overall, for what are we, 18 years old now, really rich, that fruitcake and spice and cloves and what have you. A little bit of meatiness and a little bit of jamminess to it. But overall, it is what I was expecting in the way of fruit profile, but it is actually more fresh and vibrant than I would have thought. And so I'm really happy with that. 18 years young, as they say. There we go. Bit of fun. Love ripping out these old wines that we've made years ago. We stopped making Zinfandel in 2013. It was always a popular wine, but we only made small amounts of it, and you know, change is good as a holiday, they say. So we moved on to different varieties and mixed it up, and that keeps the grey matter ticking along and keeps it all interesting. So thanks for listening. 2008 Houdini, Barossa Valley, Shiraz, Zinfandel. Cheers.